check, check. Can you hear me okay? It's been a long time since I've done this sort of thing, be in front of a lot of people. So I'm just going to take a moment, and I'll let a bunch of people from the other side come on over. My name's Michael Nardone. I work together with Anteism Books on a bunch of different projects. One of the projects that we've just sort of initiated recently is called the Intertext Foundation. It's a Center for Book and Media Arts, and we're like just starting to do different projects now where we're looking at forms of publication and forms of writing across all sorts of media, from books to performance to forms of digital writing, and looking at the whole sort of history of writing and inscription. And so I'm really excited to welcome you all here. This is such a beautiful space. It feels like such an amazing thing to get to come to Anteism Books. I see Harley on the other side. Thank you, Harley, for doing all of this incredible work and building this space over these last years. So tonight, all of the proceeds are going to the Intertext Foundation from the bar. So please drink up from the bar, because all of it goes to the foundation, and it allows us to do projects like this from time to time, book launches, introducing new media works and things like this. And I'm really, really excited this evening to launch two incredible new books of poetry into the world, Erin Robinsong's Wet Dream and Alexei Perry Cox's Place, No Place. It's a place with a cross in it. I don't quite know how No Place, possibly. And also to welcome Ashley Opheim here with the Apocablyss Studio. Ashley's also been really working with the Intertext Foundation, and for them to introduce their tarot deck and some of the arcade and video projects that they've been working on. I'm just going to do a quick introduction for Alexei. Alexei's going to read from her new book, and then Erin will come up afterwards. I'll do an intro for Erin as well. Alexei is one of the wonders of Montreal. It's like such a pleasure to get to. As soon as I heard that this book was coming in the world, I knew that I wanted to do a launch for it here at this space. And yeah, I mean, she's an incredible musician, incredible writer, incredible teacher, and just like a wonderful person to be around, and somebody who connects so many different communities here in Montreal to other places all over the world, and does so in her writing as well, which is going to be like a fascinating thing for us to hear, because place connects so many languages, so many sites and places across the world. Alexei is the author of Under Her, which came out with Insomniac Press maybe like 2015, somewhere around there? 2011? Okay. What is time? And recently had a project come out with the Center for Expanded Poetics that's called Night 3. And I'm, we'll talk about place a little bit afterwards. We'll do a very short discussion just so they can talk about what they've just read from for a little bit. And yeah, I will let you soak in Alexei's words. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Ding, 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 ding. Hi. Thank you, Michael. This is quite a good-looking room. I don't really know where to begin. I never do. That's kind of what this book is about, is never knowing where you are in the world and how to make sense of it. How to make sense of not knowing where you are in the world. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone for being here and for this night and for all the many beautiful things that are happening here tonight. I also want to recognize the fact that I was very lucky. I pulled the devil, so I don't know if folks are pulling their cards, but I'm feeling a little devilish tonight, and I hope that somehow rubs off on the rest of you. Okay, so yeah, Place is really a book. It's some sort of, transpoetics of channeling my greatest loves and thinkers of this world. And it is a book that is, so peopled with other people and with the words and works of other people that I love. And I never feel like I can be generous enough or, use enough footnotes for all the folks that have helped me get here. Many of you included in that. So I'm just going to read from one section, and then we'll go on from there. This is from Matter. Me too here, detained between losing it all and going back. This constant horror between bleeding it out and the void. What word can replace anguish and not persecution? If they come for us, I'm not there and not here either. I know the worst of abysses and in transit. I fled from consciousness of myself and now left divided. That duality, to be something resembling you and its representation. The force that pushes me to be a remainder and another woman, who permits me to believe myself a self and other girls like us. My holy wild daughter, the thing destroyed, is not outside and is inside the human brain. The more effort it makes, and the more the brain can live out its myth. as if there were truth and it can understand. There is only diaspora, and I hear your voice in my ear, your small, warm hand on my breast, empty of milk, and you tell me, no more. How's that feedback? A little bit? Girls like us, idle no more, and don't get anywhere. We're beings of transit, of trajectories, of processes, and not of finality. Night goes on falling, and between its shadows, the moon, like a wild animal, and makes its way home. Moves out from behind fear and illuminates my illusion of being lost in the nothingness of my impoverished imaginary. And it can't change. Whereas my daughter can conceive of a more modern angle on the pain and the plains to make room in the mouth for grasses. The doves complain as they move in circles, idly no more, they come and go. I sit down to see how you've grown, and you look as though you were taken from the wild, from a grassland green and arid as its desolation. Standing tall with standing rocks, and you throw back your hair to observe not the limits, but the sky. I love you in beauty, I imagined, and was not. Knowing that I won't be here later, and pass my hand over the place where another detail has grown. I open the structure between a noun, citizen, and its fabula, squeezing myself more tightly. You struggle free and move in circles against my body. Your life devours mine, and I surrender. Reduced again to the form of urban species that provokes no other form of ending and resurrection. How can we transcend this infinite black space above our heads and move forward before they knock on the door, wolves in sheep's clothing, and the planet we created collapses back? You, ready, leap into black matter that is spatial matter. And the space is the blackness of and between your movements. You already call a wolf, and you know your life matters. Oh, my daughter, how horrible and possible it is here. What does the object become without its place and without my possession of it? I feel horror at being so alone and among objects. Exploitation of all this horror, and it can be a life. The landscape outside eats away at me, and on the inside matters too. I assemble a discourse, another justification, and it's worth nothing either. A white priest passes by in his black cassock and causes me to lift my gaze. There he is, as obsolete as I am. So I go back to thinking about you. Love that. Thank you. So that's a little itty bit from that work, and as all the writers in this room know, well, those of you amongst us, that when you're, releasing something, you have also been writing many other things in the meantime. So I'm going to read a little of something that is forthcoming. So this is from a little novella that is coming any minute now, called To Garden to Grave. And it's just from a little parallel perspective piece of work that is coming home somehow soon. And it's written sort of in diary entries that have no time and place, that are the time and place continues in every entry being the same one. So it's hard. March 21st. Ilham and I have love for each other. I showed Ilham around my home and the town and the country as I know it, as I have experienced it. I show Ilham the valley as well as the mountain and tell him about the traffic. When I take Ilham to the foundation of the disenfranchised, where Amina is alive and dead inside, Ilham agrees that it is an undiscovered beauty spot. Amina died without making it famous, but she wanted to, even without succeeding, make it beautiful. Ilham agrees with me on this. The setting has a certain grandeur that looks possible in a certain light. I could see that Ilham was interested in what I was saying. Borders attract Ilham. I have never been over the border of my country, but Ilham is a border crosser. The author had always told me that a passport for someone like me would be useless, but I am learning otherwise. Amina had never been over the border either, even though she spent so much time with customs officers. No one ever allowed her abroad. Ilham wanted to spend the afternoon there at the far end, the farthest end of the border. So I did it to make Ilham happy. The mountains changed colors with the sun. Ilham said it was a lovely spectacle. Ilham said it was so lovely from the other side that I should see it sometime. I said I would spend any time, anywhere there was sheds of such different kinds of light. And then also, I said, I would spend any time, anywhere, where Ilham was spending time with me. I would have stayed if I had been alone, but Ilham kept showing me different places past the ones I had become familiar with. Ilham took toward the pass. Ilham asked if I was interested in passing. There's a sort of notch in the mountain where a possibility goes through, Ilham told me. You can see it clearly. I had never looked before. That's all I'm going to read from that. And I just want to say thank you. It's a wonderful thing for me to read that piece because it ended up having the name of a child that I was pregnant with that became that same border crosser who that person is now. Anyway, thank you, and thank you everyone for being here and for this extraordinary night, and I'm excited for the rest of it to happen.
I can't talk into these mic stands because then I like dance around it the entire time. So I'm just better off picking up the microphone. So it's a real pleasure to introduce one of my dearest friends here in Montreal, Erin Robinsong, and to celebrate Wet Dream, Erin Robinsong's Wet Dream entering the world. That feels like a special thing. Erin is a dancer, writer, choreographer, thinker, incredible person. She's written, Wet Dream is her second book. Her first book was called Rag Cosmology. It won the Quebec Writers Foundation Prize when it came out, the M. Klein Award. She's somebody who has worked with Hannah Sibylle Mueller. She's worked with Andrea de Keyser as a choreographer, and has worked with probably a number of people in the room on all sorts of different collaborations. She just recently did the Geopoetic Symposium out on Cortez Island, which was one of the most like wondrous experiences of thinking and being together with people that I've ever been a part of, and is just honestly just such a special person. And I'm so excited to welcome Erin to the stage and to celebrate Wet Dream.
Wow, this is amazing audience. I actually hadn't seen how many people are here. Thank you. Michael, thank you for that introduction. It's feels like I live here. It's really nice. What a place to live. A reply. I laid my ear on the ground, my ear on the ceiling, my ear on your voice. I could no longer hear. I heard it. And I lay my whole ear, that whole radiating organ, upon the space, and slept in those eerie folds, and slept eerily in those folds. The voice I heard spirals, you could say drills. It moved the opposite way of direct, along the non-arrow of time, of being a person. Spiralic task, ridiculous task, often very shitty task of being a person. I wanted to become one. By way of approach, it moves away and returns, away and closer, deep into my brains, leaking outwards across the day. Let me say this leakage of brains, say this spillage of my person. Let me say, speaking is a ray. The green milk of me wove into a wave of this place, an ear of it, and I laid it down on the topmost layer of time, where this era is hotly composting, and I dampened it, I dribbled on it. I leaked. I gave it my moistures. I gave it my heat. That's how the book begins. I think, well, do as you will. but also, I think it's nice to stay in the poetry place if you want. This one's called Rain on the Inarticulate, which is a reference to the famous T.S. Eliot Raid on the Inarticulate. The poem's not really, but the title is Rain on the Inarticulate. In the dream, my eyes emitted a fluid that was a fractal of the sea cried to scale. In a liquidity lent everywhere, a sea folded in and leaked in return, perspired by way of turning round, as hydrology's juice, as galactic pigment, as a tear is the totality of oceanic feeling. The eye, the organ most limited to surfaces, has another sense, which emits a liquid exigence, which seeps or wraps to see inside this replete wreck of a planet's liquidity-moving solutions from clouds through eyes into dissolving commons of wet intelligence melting like ice as ice. In this rain on the inarticulate, as Eliot almost said, to soften the shabby equipment, swell it, warp it, rot it, make it sprout. Rain, rain, rain on language surfaces from water's warpings, dampened thought. Intimate office of bodily mixology wrapped in a fabric of dissolving sutures, soluble memory. To speak of water's entanglements is to dissolve all lineation. Relation is osmotic, cosmic, contagious. In a talk, Patty Bailey describes a century of toxic slag in her traditional territory, dumped by Teck smelter into the Columbia River before the Colville tribes took them to court for 20 years. And in this fight, having to prove water flows downriver, a droplet of the state of colonial decrepitude, stupitude, flowing through time as a conceptual toxin, crumbling like the brain cells of a losing reality in a world infinitely downriver, does not stop lead, and mercury does not stop. These logics, even as they crumble the ocean into sediments dredged from 1492, 1715, 1965, 2022. Water is the transportation system of all thought. Between us, through space and time, like a ferry that is the water itself. Up hydrology's workings, we rose or sank, lugubrious or levain, in flesh's sodden opulence, appearing as a solid, then a vapor. Cream is fur, in another form. The sky carried everything that could be thought, inside of it like spores, that only water could water into possible, palpable, nameable, flammable form, or liquid lived as this condition of minglement before or during 400 years of a dry dream, of discrete, of leak-proof, as a concept that invented plastic and metallurgic slag and glyphosate. Since skin doesn't breathe, it's sealed as an airtight nightmare of singular dosage you eat yourself. Since to deprive or remove or constrict or bleed off or siphon or drown or understate or sell or pump full of the only non-hydrophilic substance, which is oil, would be leachant of the wet mind of reality, fouled and filtered by clouds, mixed into thought. I grow wet and planetary as a creature whose organs clean the water. On a Monday, as perpetual liquid vastness passes through borders of continuous peristalsis. That's my most serious poem. I mean, it's all serious. It's very serious and very, very surreal. All of this, This is it's called In an Animal, In an Animal. How's the sound? Am I too close? I like to eat the mic. Please tell me, somebody. It's okay? Okay. I was recently at the Geopoetics Symposium that Michael spoke of. Everyone who used the mic one night at the very end got COVID. And and I was like, oh yeah, mics, you get very close. In an animal is what the mic is saying. In an animal. I was cursed to love the world forever, and especially now, sweating it out, spitting it out, drinking it in, before my heart becomes unbeatable. A friend who's not afraid of death says death fear is used as the ultimate lever to make people do almost anything. Actually, it's the dad of that child there who said that. A friend who's not afraid of death says death fear is used as the ultimate lever to make people do almost anything. I am afraid of death, the way I'm hesitant before heroic psychotropic doses, forgetting what feet are, what names, what faces are for. I like these forms, though there must be so much more in the universe. That in the afterlife, I'll be like one of the mind-blown who took so much acid they never came down. Hungover in the MRI tunnel, I prepare myself for this, or for losing my mind while living in it, which to me sounds worse than death. I like my sanity too much, and this planet. And I said to my friend, okay, but if dying is no problem, don't souls still need a livable place to come be fleshy? His premise being the problem of dying is solved in returning, and he would know. So I guess we'll all be tardigrades, jellyfish, echidnas, and billionaires, which sounds like a plan to me. This is the kind of knowing that got me a B- in philosophy of religion class before I learned the ways of the academe. And shut up, or said it in a certain way, you know the way. And then, exhausted, return myself from forcible forms and travel into my own mouth and labyrinthal guts, the multi-headed situation of me with no demands, but that I be planet to numerosity and receive their dues, which let me live, which let them and we live. Out this vast body, by the grace of subvisible evolving geniuses, I know about being a body, from a body through a body, because a body in a bigger body that needs to go on so I can be your world, trashing and filled with trash I didn't ask for. There's a toxin that just keeps traveling. The shrew of all moods is curiosity. I secrete in my guts when I'm shut in by reason, which is somehow the auspice for melting and burning the world. And this is why we have to be witches, ending the empire that feeds on forgetting to end. A theory afraid of plants, songs, darkness, wind, water, dreams, and a caterpillar hanging on a thread from her ass who all know how to end. Not dying is the apocalypse, just ahead of being cooked in wine, curative for forgetting. When it ends, the world goes on, transforming, generous, and ends. Oh, the man who's not afraid of death is right here. So this is who I'm speaking of in the poem. It's a very incredible man. Udavi, thank you. I'm so happy you're here. I didn't know he's going to be here. Wow. I mean, at that moment he wasn't. I don't know if that's a solid. Probably is. I don't know. No? Sorry, that's quite an intimate thing to share. Nearness. Start being a spell. In this sense, connected, fragmented as points we can't see. In this, a storm that's gathering energy. This brain I'm in's alluvium, misunderstanding what is ourselves. Am I a lady, a storm, or outright glamour of the sun? Notating endangered radiances. Not a tree, nor a bush. I utter my statement in the lost shape of a choice. It resembles dancing to look from many angles, or whole storm of self, a bachelor in this enormous connect. How basic is magic? A cloud, a crowd, a cow, a crow, a ripple. Is everything rhythm? Chaos and order will keep excreting lapidary games of thought that are no game and no gain. So reality continues as life force, as weeds reply up cement. My right heart is tight, solar plexus shock. Help me, yellow dock. Illumine pelvic root right through my brain and across existence. The future is peristaltic intercourse with weather. I realized as I was preparing for tonight that peristalsis occurs on the regular, on a peristaltic way in the book. So that was a nice discovery. I'm just going to read a few more short pieces. This is a poem about the moon, which I recently learned, which I've always been suspicious about. I recently learned that the supposed kind of inert rock that just broke off the earth, it has moonquakes all the time. It's very active geologically. It has a core, it has a mantle. It's essentially like a planet, but it's a moon, so it's less than a planet, but it's interesting. It's called Non-Planet Irrational Barren Moon. They said you were geologically dead, and they would say that about who makes the seeds cream. The oceans move in me, whose calendar revolves, whose calendar of absence, whose calendar is change. Who walks me home? O moon, make me less blurry. Make me a detailed plan through swarms of death, beside and below, traveling this edible, sprawling body through abyssal fractals, leaning back to my origin's origin, continuing in the deep element to find my mind by flap and by shimmer, onward toward, I do not know, into the vast curtain, the deep eye, sometimes stupidly certain I'm totally fucking lost or have never been. It makes me so happy just to try to describe the delicate green landings of the pine, flying in a hectic, jagged way. I would spend all my money admiring your language. In moon-baked sheets, the small blue, the oily black, wode when I first saw you, and my concepts went driving slowly away into a different muscle group entirely, like upside down against a wall, taking in your light, transforming it in my body, pressure, succession, heat, how to say it straight, what turns around into a swan, a pulse, leaking all over the floor, dissolving in it, O moon. The wound gets healed, the wound gets healed, O moon. This is called Cradle of Zoom. The cradle we've all just emerged from and are, forevermore in, and maybe. Cradle of Zoom, which I have to say, I think Zoom was possibly surreal for many of us when it began. I mean, it's been around for before the pandemic, but when things really, when just the reality just became on Zoom, that was just a realm switch, and just like that, which was amazing, but also I had some thoughts. Cradle of Zoom. I listen to my reluctance, curious to see how far it goes. But you are an artist, the person said, person with high hopes for art, I had high hopes for art too, and felt that the motion of art was first a kind of training to simply not be sick in the chaos and not swallow the sick back down. A physical training for withstanding evil. I found that I wanted to bite, to be soft, to ride and send messages. I seem to require these tensions. There's nothing formless. And actually, I just want to say that there's nothing formless came from a class with VK Preston, who's in the room, and other people who were in that class. And we're like, is this formless? Is there? And it's like, no, there's nothing formless. I think that's what we said. So there is nothing formless. And the Buddhists say that too. There's nothing formless. But the terror of speaking on a Zoom call has a whole new motion, new quiz. We were being asked to accept this, to acclimate to a realm replacement merely. These imperfect momentums are empty. The content is your art, not as objet, but as your extreme training, whereby you can make anything strange. This is the least obvious one. Jung said the body is the densest part of the unconscious. My density started to float and dissolve after Zooming. The fast-moving money of aliveness, strangest of all. When I finally left my house, I found that I wanted to hide and that I actually could. In the axiology of plants and their care, I mean weeds. I have 30 seconds left, and I must tell you, the floor has an eye. It's been here all along. In the grain of the wood, I failed to mention how it cares for me. But now that we're here, I don't want to omit the details, the plainness, the sorcery it takes for things to appear. I'm going to read 2 more short pieces. I feel like sometimes if people pick up the book called Wet Dream, that they would be disappointed, and I hope not. But this one is I hope that this will redeem the. It is an erotic book. It's very sexy. I don't know. What do I know? But it's about as Julie Joustin, who's here, who edited my first book and was an amazing reader for this book, helped me think about this morning. And as I was like, what's the book? She's like, it is an erotic book. It's an erotics of liquid interconnection. And I was like, thank you. That's what I've been trying to go for. So this is hopefully redeems the wet dream hopes. Other economies. A portal is open and things flow in and out, or they stop flowing. Less about content and more this flow of content is our aphrodisiac. Today I read about how corals spawn once a year after the first full moon of summer. Reefs pulse in pink weathers of jellies, spurts, spumes, a blizzard of group sex. To be greens like hot pinks. Erotic purples lined with shouting yellow nipples, secreting sperm and eggs in solitary splendor for 900 years. A violet brain flocked with green leather entry points, pulsating tentacles of red, violescent sea whips eating brain eggs, or tongues with fingers, fingering flower animals of feel, branching into buoyant pleasure gardens who bring the creature out of the hole. They can also asexually bud whenever. While I sit at my desk in my apartment hole, reading Sully Rolnick, who says, art is thus an ecological reserve for the invisible species that populate our animal body in its generous, germinative life. A wellspring of courage for confronting the tragic, the moods of waves, the medicines of whole dwelling, lives we haven't yet met in our very large selves as they dissolve. And this is the last one I'll read. It's called Feral Prayer. I give up. I give up asking. I give up asking for anything less than billions of gills sporulating revolution's pheromone. The trash of civilization is who I love. Anything less than billions of salmon returning themselves to the forest. All I ask are rivers, predictable flowering seasons, corridors through storms, and wet, wide will to surge the brilliance we are emitting in a practice of citizenry to a system who hates 99% of itself. Big black cat of the heavens, purr this numbness to death. My civilization suppresses weeds as much as women, so weeds grow to the size of the sky and rain down seeds on our heads. So pharma is free. So loneliness undone among monocrops in eruptions of yellow. The alternative is wind so strong I fear the trees, thrashing at the edge of ability to hold on and flex, losing bits of themselves on the roof, like us losers. Colossal loss is us, is the alternative to a pulse of salmon, a peristalsis of wings. Great undulation of oceans. Retilt brainwaves glitched in place and make intelligence surge in the stupidest places of the situation of waves, salmon streams, and sky, by way of orgasm and plasma and everything unfinished. So life stays alive. I give up asking for anything less than this kiss. Thank you. Thank you. I have so many thank yous, and I can't possibly actually make them all. There's many thank yous in the back, but I want to give a huge thank you to Harley and Anteism and everyone who's made this event so amazing. Thank you. I want to give a big thanks to Ashley and Paloma for making this event really as incredibly awesome and cool as it is. I want to thank Michael so much and Intertext for hosting us as well. It's been so much support. It's like these layers and layers of support, which I just am just in awe of. And just I want to thank my publisher, Brick Books, who's doing such great things, and my editor, Sonnet Labé, and just really so many people. So many. I really could thank almost everyone in this room, teachers, friends, colleagues. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have many wet dreams in the big sense, the expanded and the literal, all of it. So, thank you.
Hey everyone, the bar is open. We're going to take like a 20-minute break before Apocablyss comes up. There are books at the table here. The authors Alexei and Erin will sign copies for you. Get drinks, buy books, hang out, and the Apocablyss people will be up here in a few minutes. 20 minutes.
Check. Hey everyone, I'm going to try to beckon everyone back into this space, and if you can hear me and you're close to people that are far away, please help me call people back. It's always hard taking like a break in between these intimate things because we all need to like get a lot of energy out. I totally get it. I'm gonna peek in this way. Give me one sec. Okay, I'm okay with reading to this level. I'm Ashley Obscura, and I am a poet. I am the founder and managing editor of Metatron Press, which is a local literary publisher here in Montreal that publishes amazing debut books by amazing writers. And I'm also the co-founder of Apocablyss. All of the kind of video works you see in the video games and the tarot cards are all fruits of our creative work together. And to set the tone before we kind of come up here and chat a bit about Apocablyss, I'm gonna start off by sharing some poetry with you guys. It's from this book called Sexo por última vez, which means sex for the last time. And it was recently published in Argentina. It's a bilingual translation, Spanish and English on the other side. And it was taken from a collection of poetry I published a few years ago called Ambient Technology. And it's really meaningful for me because my mom is Mexican, but I did not grow up speaking Spanish. So it's been this beautiful experience to have my poetry kind of lead me back to my origins. So yeah, I'm going to read some love poems from Sexo por última vez. Where do flowers and humans come from, and is it the same place? What is of silence that can't be said? If my body wants to spend its life becoming a sundial, if blinking is just the way we keep some of the light out, if a diamond withstands incredible pressure to become a diamond, will we be one this year and for always? Will all be one in the world? I walk around the market and touch the softest fruits, peel a single lychee, put it on my tongue. There are 100,000 miles of blood vessels in my body, enough to wrap around the world 4.5 times. I can't keep up with science. The earth fits into the face of the sun 108 times. I want to do things, but I am just staring at flowers with $0, feeling rich. I want something to open without my having touched it. I want someone. I have tasted their colors before, somewhere in a dream. Imagine a beam of light shooting out of my heart, but instead of going into you, it wanders into the center of the universe, which is you standing in the sparkly white grass inside my wilderness. We make our way together toward the bright, incredible light. Light takes 1.255 seconds to get from the earth to the moon. We kiss for a long time. We make a hole and we leave it to the wind. The nature of light is to grow and expand.
In the night, while all the colors are dreaming, I will eat the sunbeam that flares in your lovely body. I will listen to and pluck the musical threads that fall from you. Your eyes are beds of moss, and your tongue is a pine tree, and my mouth is a sky. Our bodies are gardens, the golden gradient, a tingling in my spine, a stem, a spiral. The eye translates the language of light. The nature of light is to grow and expand. The flower in my heart has a beat. The nature of the flower is to beat. The flower of light is expanding. I am listening to the aurora in your eyes. It's fascinating. My feelings for you are building a discrete tower of magic. Somewhere where the darkness is, all the stars are clapping their hands in amazement of us. We share the same desire. My fingers touch your eyelashes, receive your fingers, receive flowers all night under the constellation of your stare, with nothing to hold on to, building the dream we dreamed together, letting go of something we never even held. There is no returning without going, and no going without returning. So when you draw back, I advance, and we stay that way, standing in the desert of our love, cleaving the ether amidst the sparkle, counting the choir of crystals inside our throats. Welcome the sky inside of you, baby. I have been wondering about the time zones of waiting and the phenology of watering. Waking up inside of myself isn't always beautiful, but waking up beside you is beautiful all the time. The pattern we make together is crystalline, baby. The compost in the biodegradable bag in the plastic bin is a symphony of decay. And flowers are sometimes spaceships. All beautiful things die, but think about the space between mountains anyways. Think about the space between breathing. I am not in love with you. I am love with you, baby. I am your gigantic earthly delight. Come rage, come uncertainty. Baby, brilliantly come. Avoid the ambient watermelon, it is too heavy. Hold me in the gentle rain with certainty. Hold this time zone of waiting. Together we make a watering mouth. Together we wonder about the pattern between mountains and the smallest crystals. I am gigantic for you. I am a tiny spaceship. I am waking up beside you in certainty, baby. I am wandering between the time zones of our longing. I have been a watermelon seed. I have wilted. I have decayed for you, baby. I am new. I have been waking up as beautiful as wondering. Love is a space between mountains that holds distance together. Love is a watermelon smashed on the sidewalk. I have been waking up as open as the sky for you, baby. I am all guts and seeds and rain. Thank you. I'll do a couple more. So this book is, they're very delicious. The first part of the book is very full of light, and then it gets dark because the love that I'm writing about in this book disappears. But I'm happy to be focusing on the light with you all tonight, because I feel like we all need it. Light travels at 300 million meters per second. Light is too fast, yet not fast enough. The light exists so that a stream can stroll shamelessly from your fingers. The lux, the nowhere, the luminous bliss, aurora, screensaver, the luminous, the bliss, and kissing is light, so full of flight and silver, and the darkness that is the light, and the stillness that is the dancing. We continuum, we endless hum, we lux, the nowhere, luminous, bliss, and bliss. And my boy at dusk with violet eyes and a hot pink mouth pointed towards me, saying, imagine our hearts are shooting light at each other, to me. We are two mountains crashing during a time of shift. We are two clouds merging into one before a rainstorm. The frozen landscape between us is eroded by the rainbow fire of our binding. I love you like the speed of light loves being the fastest known thing. I love you like the river loves to bend. I love you like water loves to fall, how things want to bend. I am all gold inside for you. I love you like pixels love to end, how color loves to blend. I am sorry we are in this awkward stage between birth and death together. But see, the sunrise is soft. It is constantly brilliant. Okay, one more. Thank you, everyone, for being such a lovely, respectful audience. Okay. Last one. Okay. Which one? Okay. When you just want to be quiet in love, but having to choose between being right and being loved, when things lose their meaning, the awful togetherness that is sometimes less, sometimes more awful than being alone. 30 darknesses one cycles through in one night, parts of the narrative missing. When emptiness isn't zen. When someone special just becomes someone. To imagine how little love can be, the armpits of love. To somehow be safe in love despite the danger. But to be very brave, because the physical realm is just organic residue. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. And we're going to switch things up. I'm going to invite the amazing Paloma Dawkins, the founder of Apocablyss, onto the stage alongside Cody Walker. And we are going to kind of ad-lib a presentation about Apocablyss together. So let's go. Please welcome them both up. Here, say hi.
Hi, thank you so much. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. This is a dream come true. We've been working on Apocablyss for many years. Started with Ashley and Ara's collaboration, working with the National Film Board of Canada, and we started our collaboration working on a very special little game called Museum of Symmetry, which is on the VR headsets back there. So if you want us to immerse you in another world, let us know and can put you in. That just launched a whole collaboration between us that lasted just many years. I think. What else? We worked on this game, Songs of the Lost. After that, and Apocablyss, the name of our studio, came out of that collaboration. So that was 2016, 19? Actually, no. I think that was, Museum of Symmetry was 2016. And then Songs of the Lost was 2019. And we actually launched that project here in at anteism. And so the name of the studio emerged out of that collaboration, and it started as a prompt by our producer at Manchester International Festival, who invited us to explore what a world post-apocalyptic, like post-Anthropocene era, post-nuclear arm race, post like climate disaster, what kind of evolution would emerge from that? What kind of like beauty can we find out of existing in that kind of world? And it was kind of like an exploration of that kind of challenge as evolution for us. And that kind of, for me, it means evolving with technology, evolving with nature, and finding ways to bring those two very amazing, like just all-encompassing, like giant ideas together in our hearts and our minds through stories, through cartoons, like through just poetry, and through speculative fiction, XR, all of that. So I just also want to thank our angel investors, or like our mentors, Gamma Space, who have been so incredibly supportive and have just made everything possible. And also Dames Making Games for helping start Apocablyss through the pandemic. That was really huge. And to all of our amazing collaborators, Camille, bro, without you, nothing would be possible. You're amazing. And Stefan, who's in the audience, so helpful. And Cody Walker.
Hey everyone. Maybe we could talk a little bit about like the studio and kind of our approach to making games together, which I think is rather unique when it comes to kind of creative ensembles coming together. We all have a different set of skills. I make music and I do programming, but Paloma's background is more animation and illustration based, and Ashley does obviously more poetry based work. And I think one interesting aspect, at least, of how we've been coming together to collaborate has been in trying to think about our poetic works or creative works together as a kind of a worlding that is kind of like making these worlds together. Obviously, there are a bunch of different characters from the games that we've worked on over the years. Sometimes, we haven't worked on the same games together, but there's a kind of overlap of different characters. And at least for me, I think that's what's really interesting about the tarot deck as it's come together, is that it's got different elements from a whole bunch of different games. And we're kind of trying to bring new life to these characters by having them embody what is, classically based on the Rider-Waite deck. And we're trying to bring those kind of like those characters by mapping them onto those other cards and those other features, and trying to like tell these stories with these characters as we bring them into new worlds and new games. But beyond that, I think that there's a number of ways in which the way that we're working together and making games, I think, is very unique in that it's not based on trying to create a marketable studio project immediately. We're much more interested in kind of collaborating together to create worlds, and the products or like the technical specifications of those games kind of come as an after effect of us kind of trying to build these worlds together. Would you like to speak to that maybe?
Because I feel like we live in a world where it can often feel like it's very hard to make change in the world and to kind of create the world that we're all envisioning that we lived in, a better world. And for me personally, like getting into games was quite surprising for me, but it's been like so validating because you can just create whatever world you want in the games, and that's kind of what we're doing. We're trying to create speculative fictions and these sort of blissful experiences within technology that are not sort of separate from like what we call the apocalypse. But as we all know, like apocalypse doesn't mean things are ending. I think even Erin had a beautiful line about this in one of her poems. about how like it's not, things don't end, like we're just shifting and changing. And I feel like we approach games with like a loving heart and just wanting to create really inspiring and fun spaces for people to be in, because sometimes the world isn't like that. So why not make video games like that? I did want to share the description that we wrote, because Apocablyss is actually like a fictional space that we've been thinking about for a long time. And it's sort of a safe space. It's kind of like when the world is ending, like we're all going to be trying to make it to Apocablyss, which is where we're safe. But I wanted to read this description of Songs of the Lost, which is being played right here, because I think it really embodies some of the ethos around our company. So we have destroyed the world and have relied on technology to fix it for us. Its solution for us, Apocablyss, the last safe haven on earth that everyone is trying to make it to. Not unlike the real world we live in, players of Songs of the Lost are stuck in a fantastic world not of their own making. Players must forsake their agency temporarily in order to upgrade to the new system that promises a life-changing user experience. To be eligible for the upgrade, players must obtain a passport to pass through to Apocablyss. Are there even rules here, or is everything subject to outside control and surveillance? A commentary on consent and technology, the game asks, what have you, the player, consented to without knowing the parameters? Do you want to read the second part? But we can also
talk more about that. Where are we at? Like there. Everything the player interacts with has been programmed by technology. Life itself has been cast aside for the sake of building a fantastic world that fascinates with the grandeur of its delusion. Ritual is dead. Echo chambers run rampant. Precedence for design of the world has been prioritized over the care of its inhabitants. As you move through the game, you wonder whether you have agency or not. Is this world made for you or for technology to thrive? What makes the world found in Songs of the Lost different from ours? Have we forsaken humanity for technology? Design over people? Have we forsaken life for technology? Songs of the Lost explores these questions. In effect, Songs of the Lost pokes at the borders and separations between ourself, others, and the world around us at large, and wonders where technology can and will take us, and at what cost. We worked with Jalen for that project, and we're looking forward to working with artists in Montreal locally and new artists around the world. If you make music, we'd love to reach out and collaborate in the future. We want to work on VR games in the future, and we're working on a project right now called Rococo's Garden, and it explores nature as a force and how interacting with the bugs and with biodiversity can be expansive, can be beautiful, and the technology of nature is amazing and something we want to explore.
Yeah, like back to like the technology of nature. So we kind of approach like nature as a subject, and it's, and it is technological. And Rococo's Garden is like our next game we're working on, and it sort of subverts the player experience. I don't want to give too much away, but pretty much you're hired to do a certain job in the game, and then you realize that you're actually destroying the environment. And then it's sort of about this kind of conundrum. But yeah, I wanted to ask Cody, because Cody has like a lot of really awesome thoughts about like, with people working with technology, it's such a like juicy thing, but I feel like there's so much conflict around like the platforms that we use to create games. And this is something that we're really thinking of because, you know, with Facebook and like the metaverse and all this stuff, Google, we all use them, but there are also companies that cause a lot of harm to communities that we really care about, and that's something that we've been thinking about. And I feel like, Cody, you have some really awesome thoughts on this, and I'd love to pick your brain a bit on stage, if that's okay.
Yeah, maybe I'll just talk a little bit briefly about kind of like the platforms that we're using to make games and distribute them, because I mean, the history of us making games together has been, you know, us using a variety of different platforms. But they each kind of come with their own kind of like ethical cost, you know? I mean, anytime you know, distribute any form of art, you always have to think about the context in which it's like received and who's distributing it and who's sharing it and where people are reaching it. And I think that, you know, we've been thinking about that for sure for our future games, because, you know, what platforms are we using and how are we distributing them? And I think there's no grand solution to any of this stuff. I think it's only really a matter of kind of bringing attention and care to, you know, the power dynamics. You know, we're using VR, and you can't really use VR without using some kind of like headset, really. And every headset that's available now is tied into these, you know, these multinational tech corporations, and I don't know, it's ethically, you know, kind of problematic, I think, just to be using the technology at all. So rather than kind of excluding that from our creative process, we're kind of trying to think about that as we're building the games, you know, like what tools we're making it with and where those tools come from. There's a much longer answer to those questions. And I think it really comes through the specifics of how we make things. But I think just generally our approach has been one that I think is defined most by care and attention. I think we really care deeply about this stuff, and finding a way to, you know, make things together, it involves a certain amount of like compromise with the platforms that we're using. And yeah, it's an ongoing problem, but yeah, if anybody has any, you know, cool platforms they want us to try that are, you know, maybe not as tied into these, you know, these technocracies, like, please let us know.
Yeah, I really value like a collaborative approach, and would love to invite you all to like reach out to us and to let us know like what you look for in a technology company, and like start a conversation with us, because we can't do this on our own, and we don't want to keep on with that top-down decision-making process. We're doing this for you. So yeah, I invite you all to reach out and be a part of this.
Yeah, and just to close things up, because I feel like people want to party, which is totally understandable. But yeah, we're trying to make games in like community with people and trying to like understand like what that relationship would look like. And we're still experimenting and figuring it out, but it is a very open door policy with us. Tonight we're actually gathering people's experiences of bliss. We're very like fascinated with bliss, and we've been talking about it a lot and trying to understand like what that means for people. So we have like these prompts in the back zone where all our games are, that ask about for you to share like an experience of bliss that you've had recently. So if you could do that. We also, as Paloma said, we have the VR thing set up. We have Songs of the Lost right here you guys can play. So yeah, thanks for listening. And we have like one more, there's a musical guest that will be joining us in maybe 20 minutes or so. It's going to be amazing. And do you have any other final thoughts?
Well, we just wanted to play a trailer that Camille made for us recently, and with music by Mikey, Blackbird, Blackbird. And yeah, so after that, there'll be some music up here, and thank you so much for joining us. It's right there. Look over. See if it works. Oh yeah.
Okay. So I just made a comment to a friend that when life is good, you can comment on the fact that fucking life is good. Life is good for all sorts of reasons. The reason for me tonight is that Nadah is about to play. And this, for me, is a fucking gift. So, for those of you that don't know, amongst many other things, Nadah is a now Montreal-based producer and maker of things. And I'm going to tell you what else she is. She is fresh and fearless. Her performances give us a captivating voice that transcend us from the things that we thought were time and fuck time. She's about to fuck your time. Have a fucking time.
Hi. I'm gonna start out with the intro song of Ahwar, the album that I wrote, and let's see how the rest of it goes. you. عايزين ايه تاني؟ إيه؟ Change the session. وشفت غيري كتير عاشق عمري ما دقت المر إلا في هواك أنا عشت وشفت غيري كتير عايش عمري ما دقت المر إلا في هواك وكم صبرت ما كانش فيه يوم نتفق وكم صبرت ما كانش فيه يوم نتفق مع إنه قلبي كان أسير يطلب رضاك كان أسير يطلب رضاك تغير لما تشوفني مع سواك. بلاش تغير لما تشوفني مع سواك. يا ما شربت يا ما شربت وكنت أقول صبرك عليه يمكن في يوم يرجع لعقله. يمكن في يوم يرجع لعقله. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was real pleasure to be part of the event tonight and to be amongst the poets and to hear words. And yes, thank you all for coming and for staying and for listening.